And of course, technology has been one of the dominant themes in trading in North America this year. So let's bring in Joy Yang, who's Global Head of Index Product Management at MarketVector Indexes, to talk a little bit about the tech theme. It's great to have you with us. And obviously, there's been an insatiable investor appetite for the story of AI. How are you looking at AI names after the big run-up that we've seen?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it is a big ramp up. AI is a real story, and there is strong demand. And as we've seen from the earnings announcement, there has been good sales and revenues coming from the AI story. But I think investors still have to be very careful as we're hitting these all-time highs, is that there is this tariff story that's still yet to play out. And what we're seeing is that, even within the tech sector and the AI sector, you have to really differentiate on how companies are responding to the tariff policies. And as we've seen today with NVIDIA and AMD making these one-on-one trade negotiations, we're seeing some of these larger mega cap players benefit from negotiating one-on-one deals with the government. And again, these are one-on-one deals. They benefit the U.S. government, but investors have to also think about how, we're trading off whether it's national security or competition within the marketplace, and where does that leave some of these smaller tech players.
So within semiconductors, just as an example, you're saying the biggest fish could continue to have pole position because, they've got name brand value. They can walk into the White House. They literally just cut a big deal and they're back into the Chinese market.
Yeah, and on the flip side, these companies are also important to Trump's negotiation policies, as we've seen with Jensen traveling around with Trump in the Middle East. The government is using some of these companies and status in order to kind of bring manufacturing back to the U.S. or, the story back to the U.S. But I think we also have to, as I said before, think about how this impacts competition. As we become more enclosed, we are driving competition elsewhere. And we know that the AI story is about innovative disruption, but it can also disrupt itself.
Very true. And I think we're only in the early innings of that. Who knows where we're going to be in 5 years? Look, there's different parts of the AI story. I loathe saying, picks and shovels that, since NVIDIA has been such an innovative company. But I think, there are the tools needed to get started in AI. That's one story. I think another story is AI infrastructure. We've heard a lot about that, sort of the big spend, the big build out to address the AI power needs. How are you thinking about that part of the story?
Yeah, we have this great index around AI infrastructure, and we've just seen it hit all-time highs year to date. And that's because we know whatever happens in AI, we need the data, and data consumes energy. So people need to build out that infrastructure and need to think about their energy participation in this space. So we've seen all of these companies on the energy side really kind of ramp up to accommodate this. And again, investors have to think carefully about any single stock concentration and really think about the basket of companies within this sector, as well as we've seen some of these, early adopters really finding the use cases where there is still strong capex and funding. And one of those is with governments in military and national defense. So we've seen Palantir really rise up back on the back of last week's earnings announcements.
Yeah, and I guess you're getting into that other part too with Palantir, which the story of how AI is going to be implemented into military matters globally. I think there's sort of this feels like this parallel path of interest in not just artificial intelligence, but in how it's influencing warfare. So, in a year where you've got defense companies that have been moving higher and AI companies that have been moving higher, we're just showing our audience Palantir, which is up a whopping 517% now over the last 12 months.
Yeah, again, we caution, investors to think about, at any point in time, governments can pull their funding, right, for whatever reason, because this is a very sensitive, space for people to try to protect and deal with. So be careful about exposure to any single stock. And there's certainly a wide number of companies within the defense tech sector that are really booming and capturing some of this new funding into this space. And as we've seen, even as these policies play out, and we're still expecting, what is the retaliation from other governments? How will the deals look like once the licenses are signed? And we saw clearly with gold, there's still a lot of confusion out there. So investors should really be careful about how much they're pricing in or what their time frame is.
Joy, thanks a lot. Appreciate you joining us today. Joy Yang is Global Head of Index Product Management at MarketVector Indexes.